Morning, guys. Welcome to Coffee Chat. Well, I'll tell you what, it is Friday. We absolutely made it. And of course, Fridays means it's the start of our weekend, time for friends and for family. That's what we try to do. And I sure hope you get to spend your weekend with your friends and family and take that time to just be together. Anyhow, guys, tell you what, the article that I was reading this morning, what an eye opener as to what they've got planned in the future with respect to us, this economy, and of course, our mobility and freedom. And what we're talking about there is reading an article about the Environmental Protection Agency's new rules on emissions for internal combustion engines. And the way this is going to go down, and this is how they do it, guys, they put in all these various regulations and stuff like that, but the consequence of those regulations results in this. And thus, in this article, it's talking about by 2030, it's going to be a reduction of 60% of all internal combustion engine sales. And there are not going to be cars with internal combustion engines. And by the way, California is looking to ban internal combustion engine sales by 2035. So now here we are in a situation where a lot of the electric cell vehicles today, look, you can only go so far distance-wise before you have to get these things all recharged. And of course, the grid can't take all that many for these recharging stations when you consider the population. So what are we talking about there, guys? Obviously, we're talking about the reduction of private vehicle ownership. And what else? Well, how about the distance that you travel with those vehicles? What do you think a lot of these 15-minute cities are going to be about? This is all a major push, and they're using the climate as an excuse, but this all comes down to limiting people's ability to their mobility, actually, not ability, but more mobility, and getting out there. And they don't have to absolutely, legislate your freedoms away. They just make it impossible for you to exercise your freedoms in one of two ways. They either price you out in terms of what it would cost to actually have a private vehicle ownership, number one. Number two, they take away the means for which you could actually utilize that. Gone are the days of doing the Route 66. Remember that old song, I Get My Kicks on Route 66, where people would literally drive the whole family across the entire continental United States using Route 66. And of course, visiting all the little podunk towns along the way and stops and things like that. And that was a big, big deal. And then, of course, they came out with a lot of the super highways, and Route 66 kind of went away as the dodo. But you could still go out there and travel in a big, big way. Well, it makes it harder and harder and harder. Have you tried to drive from LA to Vegas in a car that needs to be charged? You have to stop, and a lot of time halfway in between, wait 45 minutes to get another charge out of that vehicle before you can continue on. It's not like a straight shot where you're just driving in your car, your gas-powered car. It limits the amount of distance that you can go before you can recharge. And then on top of that, I think it's going to just make it more and more inconvenient for people to actually go out and do that. And of course, they're citing, oh, well, this is for the environment. Really? Well, it seems like these bigwigs that are all involved in this whole environmental deal, they don't have any kind of restrictions on their carbon footprint. I mean, goodness sakes, they're flying to all these meetings in their Lear jets. Then they got all these big, massive SUVs with all of their escorts to go all the way around town and all these events that they're doing, and they're just living it up while you and I can eat bugs while they can have luxury food items and all this kind of nonsense. And to me, it's just absolute hogwash. There is not enough data truly out there to support that the global warming we're experiencing is the result of all the combustion engines. Now, I'm sure there's a percentage of it that goes there. But guys, there's studies coming out that basically are saying, hey, look, this is cyclical. And what we're seeing as an increase in the global warming would have happened regardless. Now, I'm not going to debate all the science. I'm not a scientist, and I'm not going to get into all the big arguments about it. But my point is this, I just really believe a lot of these organizations around the world are utilizing these various different methods and means to actually limit our liberty and our control and all these 15-minute cities and things like that. Now, if you think that that's way out of touch conspiracy theory, tell you what, you go to the World Economic Forum website and you read what their vision of 2030 really is. I'll tell you what, guys, it is absolutely Orwellian for those of us that would actually get that reference. It's truly something else when you see it. And when you're talking about this kind of implementation of what this utopian society or this free and equalitarian society that the WEF is actually putting out there, the World Economic Forum, it is nothing when you consider that, when you measure that against personal liberty and your ability to pursue happiness. You know, what is not, the ability to go out there and pursue happiness? Well, their pursuit of happiness and your pursuit of happiness, I'll tell you what, are probably way, way different. Their pursuit of happiness is having an elite bunch over here that really know what's best for the majority of the world, and they're the ones that get to enjoy the luxuries in life, and on top of that, call all the shots, while you and us, we get to own nothing and be happy because, we got Big Brother taking care of us out over there, don't you know? All that kind of hogwash. And look, a lot of us don't subscribe to that. We want to have the ability to go out there and really achieve dreams based on the efforts that we put in. We're not looking for a free ride. We're not wanting universal basic income to actually come out there and support us. We're not expecting the government to be there to bail us out like a lot of these big banks and all these other multinational corporations are looking, too big to fail corporations, really looking to the government to bail them out of their bad investments or their bad decisions or their poor economic policies that create nothing but chaos for the rest of us, while they get bailed out and then literally take people by the collar, a rank and file. And that's what happened back in 2008. Boy, I'll tell you, you saw a lot of these major banks getting bailed out into the billions. And yet, people were being foreclosed on and kicked right out of their homes and had to live in their cars. Good, hard-working people that were the working poor because of that whole situation that was created with all these subprime mortgages and the way in which they danced around this whole deal and the fiscal monetary policy of the central banks that really brought that kind of pain on the whole world. But did they feel it? Absolutely not. Who did feel it? We all felt it, didn't we? Because I can remember back then, Judy and I had a home. And we ended up having to have that home. We didn't get it foreclosed on. But when we moved, we ended up having to have someone come in and assume our mortgage because I'll tell you what, we started off with significant equity in that. By the time 2008 and 9 was done, we were underwater in that place and could not maintain it any longer. And that's the way it was. Well, that wasn't a situation we created, was it? But these big banks did, but did they suffer for it? No, they didn't. All of us did. And that's what I think a lot of these policies are gearing towards. I mean, when you think about that, and you're talking 2035, no internal combustion engine is going to be sold in the state of California, and around the rest of the country, a reduction of 60+% of internal combustion engines. Well, guys, ask yourself this: is the grid sufficiently hardened enough to support everybody that owns a car today being able to plug in overnight and charge it? Not on your life. That grid would go down within every 10 minutes. So what are you talking about there? Think down the road. A plus B equals C kind of deal. And that's what we're looking at. And this is where we have really got to get out in front. They're doing it deviously through these, Environmental Protection Acts, changing the emission rules, doing all these other things and all this and that. And they're just doing it where most people are absolutely oblivious to what these regulations are and how it's going to impact them on a long-term basis and their lives going and their kids' lives going forward. That's what's really going on. Oh my goodness. Well, guys, I can tell you what. I know sometimes I can get up on a soapbox, but can't we all? And sometimes some soapboxes need to be stood on. That's for sure. And this is one I think we got to get out ahead of this and say, hey, hold on a second here. And really put people in office that are going to support you and I. Now, that doesn't mean that we are not supposed to be responsible custodians. That's for sure. We're not just talking about, oh, well, who cares and that. No, it's not that. But look, all these impositions, let's find out if it's really the facts. Just like, hey, look at all these injuries now. When at one time, wow, there's not even one little itty bitty side effect, is there? Oh, the science, the science, the science. Now what are we finding out? Hey, the science, right? All these injuries going on. I'm telling you guys, it is ridiculous. And that's why we need to get out there, in my opinion, and absolutely say our piece and put people in office that are really going to be genuine and transparent to the best. You know, obviously, when you're dealing with politics, you're not going to look, it's almost like a 6 of one, half a dozen of the other is what's the greater of the lesser evils or whatever that is, because unfortunately that's the way politics has gotten. Gone are the days where it's a public servant really going out there and genuinely wanting to serve the people and all this kind of stuff, because the majority of them, they get in there and before long they're just like every other one, and they go in there as a normal person, they come out like a multi-millionaire or like a billionaire, and there's so many examples like that. It's amazing how many of them are absolutely right on the money when it comes to their stock picks. I'll tell you what, boy, oh boy. But anyhow, guys, I'll tell you what, I sure hope you're having a fantastic Friday. And until later on today when we have our video to release to you, I sure hope you're having a good one. And hey, last night, Judy and I ended up having to stay out a little later. And then when we did get home, it was kind of too late for me to actually get a video out. So I thought, okay, I'll just save that for Friday and do an extra special one on Friday. So guys, I'll tell you what, until then, I sure hope you're having a fantastic one and take care.